All right, let's wait for some more people to get into the chat room. But me
Okay.
and the brother Awini Baba, we're gonna be chopping it up tonight. Wait for some more people to get what Africans worldwide could do for themselves. So we'll start off with a great example. Uh, Thomas Sankara, the president of
Mm-hmm.
Burkina Faso, who basically
Mm-hmm.
preached or led by example or established a self-sufficient Burkina
Mm-hmm.
Faso as far as
Yeah.
doing everything internally, getting rid of
Mm-hmm.
foreign interest,
Mm-hmm.
challenging the international creditors who were giving out these loans with these high interest rates.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a prime example of what Africans could do for themselves and not have to
Mm-hmm.
continue to be exploited by foreign interests that don't have their our best interests at heart. Brother Awini,
Mm-hmm.
how do you feel about that? What are your thoughts on
Yeah. Well, I think generally people on various levels play different roles, in trying to bring us out of our situation. Thomas Sankara, as you rightfully pointed out, full of that. And what he represents is what the youth can do because he was a young man. And he was, he defied all odds, and brought all this change into Africa. But what I seriously feel has been missing in our struggle or agenda is the rest of the youth have not been able to, if you will, participate properly, meaningfully struggle. And oftentimes it had led to, those people like Thomas Sankara trying to do the right thing. It has led to their isolation. At a point in time, Thomas Sankara felt so isolated.
that? Mm-hmm.
You know, he was so isolated, and it was all because the youth or the people in the country he was fighting for did not even understand what he was doing.
Wow.
And this stems from ignorance, and and that ignorance is still here today. It's changing, but not as fast as we would want it to change because the educational system, the if you will, for this change largely does not exist. There's no conscientizing going on in the school system that will have people critically assess people who are in government and whether what they're doing is in the best interest of the country or not. You see, so in as much as ourselves, a lot of people have led the way, like you mentioned, Thomas Sankara. You know, if we look at his policies, you know, we can see the direction in which we need to go. The problem is not that we don't know what we must do. We do,
Mm-hmm.
we do, but we're not doing them. You see, people have shown the way. You know, come around, think about homegrown solutions to your problems, and people are not doing that. People are looking for piecemeal approaches to development. They want to borrow. They go about borrowing unsustainably, which leads to high indebtedness of their countries. You see, uh, Thomas Sankara represents what we can do for ourselves, and I think he demonstrated that very, very well. And any student of African history can go back and look at the policies he rolled out, cutting spending. He cut spending so much it pissed off his own ministers because they couldn't
Right.
ride in these big, huge
Mm-hmm.
monstrous cars
Right.
and so on. similar to what the Tanzanian president, Magufuli, is doing today. You see, because he also these austerity measures. He drastically reduced salaries and, if you will, luxuries that ministers of state before him enjoyed. And ministers of state would charter flights when they're going for international meetings. And the Tanzanian president, fully, is now saying, no, you have to fly in a common everybody else. And we can't we're a developing nation. We can't afford all these luxuries these ministers in government want. You see. So another clear example is what John Magufuli of currently is doing. He's cutting down costs. He's trying to homegrown solutions in that country.
You mentioned how the youth were disconnected from what Thomas Sankara was doing, how they didn't understand. Here in America, it's similar. The Black youth, for the most part, are largely disconnected. Some say it's the media, some say it's the music, the mumble rap, drugs, negative influences. Why do you think the youth were so disconnected from Thomas Sankara and did not understand or grasp what exactly he was doing?
Yeah, let me make a clarification. In the law of averages or numbers, it wouldn't make sense to say everybody was disconnected. But what I wanted to get across is of Burkinabes, who were the youth. I blame it on the level of education and perhaps strategy of his government. You see, and this educational lack of education failed to equip the youth and the people of the country to participate or to have a stronger stake in the issues in that country. You see, to the extent where his closest friend is whom the French used to kick him out.
Yeah, Thomas Blaise Compaoré, right?
Compaoré. So, and these were buddies. You see, they were buddies. But if the youth were conscious, even if that were to happen, they would have rejected Blaise Compaoré. They would have they would have known the processes to reject him. You see, but they didn't have that, and most African countries don't have that. And to what you said about the youth's preoccupation with drugs and that here too. We all passed through that stage of growth where we used to have a lot of passion for some of these things, but I don't think that's the main issue. I think that people let me use examples again. Youth in Europe and so on, they party and have a nice time. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that conscious education,
yes,
through the school system to equip the youth, citizens, and to teach them what the tenets of the system within which they're living are, and what they can do to make sure that these tenets of the system work, even if somebody is imposed on them. They should know the processes that they need to pass through to reject impose, either through peaceful protests. You can protest. You can hit the streets and keep hitting the streets until this person is gone. You can quiz of the new government. This is something that doesn't happen world, we don't have critical thinkers to, let's say, the policy. If you look at USA, take the policies of Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton at the time, and do an impassioned analysis of what the policies mean, the implications of the policies will be for the community, you see, and where they need to stand, you see. And this is not happening. This is the reason why the youth are so misled. It's a multifaceted problem. There are many sides to the problem, and I think the biggest side, or a chunk of the blame, would go to the lack of educational systems, and we can turn around and blame that on the day, you see. But if we follow the blame, it has to come back to us, because we are the ones who should be demanding. We should it's a right, and we should demand these things, you know. So that's my take on it. I think that the educational system that stems from a government that is forced to provide the right education
Mhm.
is what's to blame for our situation.
Do you think it's done by design that the government isn't teaching or preparing our kids properly? You think that's by design, or like, why is that?
Yeah, well, I think, you see, once you begin to go into this, you begin to sound like a conspiracy theorist.
Okay.
Because if you say something, you have to be able to back it up with facts, right? From where we sit, we can say that yes, some foreign elements interfered in our development process. That's a fact, and they haven't denied that. If you look at Congo to Patrice Lumumba,
Right.
the Belgians came and apologized for it. They were the ones who did it, of our people, of course. You see, uh, uh, what do you call it? Mobutu Sese Seko.
Mm-hmm.
You see, so if we stretch it out too far, we're going to run into a problem. But if we say we are holding our ground, we don't care whoever's involved, holding our ground, and we're going to make sure that it's from within or without. It's not. You see, I think that's the best we can do, because it's just like blaming a thief for robbing you, every day. Blaming your community, what it should be doing to prevent this thief from robbing you. It kind of comes down to looking at, because we are the victims, and we have to take steps to protect ourselves. And if we're not doing that, we can't turn around and blame anybody. Look, the world powers, from what I understand, it is in their nature to want to dominate economically. And to dominate economically, they have to influence the politics or the politicians. And if a country should give them the way or the wherewithal to do it, they'll do it gladly. But if the country has an awakened youth who know what they policy, because a lot of these advantages or bad policies, they're not hidden, they're there, but we fail to look at them with a critical eye, and to allow, even if we don't have the skills, we should have within our community somebody or a group of people, experts in these areas, whom we trust to give us balanced analysis policies. You see, I can run through some of the policies that we have had that haven't really helped. We went for what we call the structural adjustment program. This dates way back, and program, you see, and they basically come and they loan you money. They loan the country money, tell you how to cut spending, and they place those conditions on you and tell you you must cut spending. And most of the spending in our countries, they are from the sector, or what you call the public sector wage bill, wages that people are paid, government employed people are paid. It's where a chunk of the money comes from. So they come in and they tell you, you need to cut down on basically, you know, people you have to pay at the end of it because it's too huge. If you need to pay us back, you're going to cut down. This is our condition. We went into it, we accepted it, and we had to lay off some workers in the early 80s, you know, and some historians even date back longer than that. What I'm trying to say is about 30 years down the line, we are still at the same IMF. We have gone back to the IMF. Where is the benefit of these programs? Brazil used to go to the IMF. They are independent now. They don't go to the IMF anymore. You see, because the thing about the IMF is it's about business. They give you money, you're supposed to pay them back within a time period, and they make sure you pay them back, even if you get broke again.
Right.
Pay them back, which will bring you back to them. So it's a cycle. You see, so we need to look at economic policy and take it real serious, and we can learn from other countries that have been in similar situations. China was also colonized. How did they come to the situation? India seems to be, also springing and one of the rising nations economically in the world. How did they come out of it? So I think basically what we need to be looking at is the government policy, and the only people I believe can be the watchdogs of this are the youth, no one else. All people that are supposed to be in government can be bought.
So let's speak on what Africans can do for themselves worldwide. Like, so we talk about, you have Claude Anderson here in America, and he talks about building an economic, I guess, infrastructure, having our own businesses. Then you have some that will say, well, when we build our own businesses, races, Europeans, whites have a history of destroying it. Case in point, Black Wall Street. What are your thoughts? What exactly, or give us some points or some tenets of what Africans can do for themselves worldwide?
I think we have to learn from the past. I do not think we have to be living in the past. We have to learn from it. And like I said before, whether we realize it or not, we do. And these people, basically, if we begin to control our economy, they don't get what they used to get.
Right.
Our economies. It's as simple as that. So we don't blame them or talk about that much. We look to ourselves, and we are brilliant people. We engineer a new system. It cannot be attacked in that way. Look, Africa in itself is a huge market. Any business, basically any business you can think of. Let me give you an example. You see our food industry, Uh, we import in Ghana. We import about 70% of the rice we consume.
You said, did you say rice? Did you say rice?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Let me cut you off. So when I was in Senegal, I noticed the rice was coming from like South America. I think it was like Argentina or somewhere crazy, South or Central America when I was in Senegal. Like I noticed that. I'm like, why do you have to
Yeah.
import your own rice when you guys could eat rice made in Africa?
Yeah. Exactly. And that's the problem. That's the problem is we have to have a machinery to attack. As of now, only a few bodies existing that can do an analysis of government policy and the implications that those government policies have for us. So you look at rice in Ghana, and I understand this is across West Africa. I understand President Buhari of Nigeria banned the importation of rice. I don't know how far they've gone with that, but I did the news on that there was a ban in Nigeria just to cause Nigerians to produce their own rice. You see, uh, but we 70% of the rice we consume, and rice is a staple in Ghana.
Right.
It's a
That's in every Africa.
staple. Are you getting me? So assuming you have a government policy that would encourage locally produced rice, so completely revolutionize the rice industry. Now, government needs to do that in order for the businessman to thrive. For instance, if you're a businessman and you come to Ghana and you say, okay, I want to invest in rice. You people don't grow much of it, so I want to invest in rice. So you go and you invest in rice, but you produce, you're competing with subsidized imported rice.
Mm-hmm.
You see, this is the problem: is government needs to provide the conducive environment. Look, most countries that produce a product, they don't allow or a foreign entity to penetrate the market that easy. They talk of free trade, but they'll tell you, okay, it's free trade, but you have to pay tariffs at the port of entry. You see, and this is what is meant to shoot the price of the imported commodity for it to be much higher or a bit higher than what is produced locally. You see, so that locally produced one will in the day and benefit from its own market. You see, most countries do this, and we don't do it because we sign on to policies and tell us we should be doing these things. And for instance, recently, the Ghana government policy called the Economic Partnership Agreement, uh, a policy between West Africa and the EU that seeks to remove trade barriers. And the trade barriers are in the form of taxes that foreign goods need to pay to Ghana in order to come into the country. So basically, we signed on to it and all the barriers basically, so that when somebody produces something in Europe and wants to sell it in Ghana, he doesn't meet all these taxes and obstacles. And they say it's vice versa. But the problem with have an trade, Ghana and Africa is still developing. So if you go into such a partnership with the EU, you're going to collapse your local industry. And it's not only goods, it includes services. You see? So this is the situation in the country, and we as a to be able to address these policies and challenge these policies, because economists in Ghana did challenge the policies, but the problem of the youth is uh, most of them other things, because they miss the chance of being taught in school. Not they're not following these events enough. They are they don't develop the capacity around the issue as much as they should to inform themselves. You see, so hard to see.
Okay, what I know you mentioned you had tenants that you implemented in your programs that I guess would help those or people who are interested or have an initiative to be self-sufficient and work for themselves. What can we discuss some of those tenets?
Yeah. So basically, you see, my approach is based on group economics. You see, are you hearing me?
Yeah,
Hello?
so yes, group economics. So when we say group economics, we mean producing and buying from each other, making sure money circulates in our community. Um, now,
That's part.
Black people here in America, from my understanding, from the time we get paid, money circulates or touches Black hands maybe once or twice before it leaves the community. I want to say with Jews, it's maybe 10, 15 times. Same thing with Asians, same thing with whites. But with Black people, it's maybe once or twice. I mean, how do we stop that?
Uh,
Or change?
you know, the issue of buying black and spending the money in the community, you know, it's something that has been bouncing around for a while. I think that what you call them entities that are really strong and survive. And my, I, you see, this issue of spending in the community, I approach it from a different perspective.
Go ahead.
When you look at the numbers, the black population in America is this is a minority, substantial, right? It's substantial,
Uh,
right? So
say that one more time. You said the Black population in America substantial. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, even though when you take the percentage, it's a minority, and I stand to be corrected. But from what I read, the black population is growing, is huge, but let's use a term. It's competitive in terms of cities in America.
I mean, it depends which part or which state or which cities in America. Um,
I'm saying overall.
Overall, I mean, it's decent. I mean, yeah, it's decent.
Now, if we our numbers, we need to raise enough money
Mm-hmm.
to invest or create huge companies. I don't know. I'm not really a fan of the micro approach to economics, like SMEs, and it's good if you have that in the communities and so on. But we need to have a company, giant companies that give us dividends, that can go back to our pocket. And when that filters into the population, trickle into the black community. I don't know if you're getting my approach. It's an investment approach.
So you're saying as we build industries and infrastructure, we'll be able to hire our own. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, but whether we hire our own or we don't, we're going to be making money from American economy. You see,
Yeah.
we're going to be making money, and with that money, we can begin to look at social development gap. You see, and begin to address long-term solutions like education, and infrastructure. So this concept of spending it's what want of a better word. We if we go that way hard, we go that way and say, okay, I only spend my money in a black establishment.
Right.
I only black and so on. But are we saying that Asians or whoever should come to our establishment and spend money in business concept? You see, to open our arms to everybody. Not you see what I have learned. Some of the Europeans and Asians and so on, they have no respect for us. But when we walk into the establishment with money, they salute us because they want.
Right.
See, now we can equally do that. We can equally establish, companies or entities also compete in that environment, and definitely it's good to encourage to first consider their people, depending on what they're looking for, to buy or purchase. You see, but I tend to look at it more on a large scale that comes from a large scale investment in a that trickles back. Benefits are then reinvested into the black community, in social projects, in small businesses, communities, and the likes. So people can have access to credit to start a business back within a stipulated period of time. Uh, this is my approach, and this is basically what I am we do in Africa is for the youth to come together, raise money, let's say shares in MTN, which is the largest, telecommunications Ghana that makes huge money. So one part of that, and we so by owning it, we're spending on our establishment, we're spending in our business. You see, because some of these big companies, you can't avoid, for instance, paying your telephone bill, right? You see, you have to pay your telephone bill. So why not benefit from paying the telephone bill by investing huge and that's my approach to it. The ability of the black to compete in the big services that have big money because we haven't put it together. But once we put it together, it's huge. Look, within a year, would have had a phenomenal impact on the scale of things, and it's going to be shocking, but it is doable.
What industries? So Indians, they control hospitality, like hotels, services of that nature. I think each demographic of people, they have an industry that they specialize in. What industry should Black people have a monopoly on or specialize in? If you could think of it specifically, of course, all of them wouldn't hurt, but where should someone get started? What do you think about that? What are your thoughts about that? Food.
Yeah,
Okay.
Food, and when you look at food, it's a whole value chain because you get the food from its raw state and you process the food till it is consumed. You see, and this is one area that can never go out of business,
All right.
and we're not doing that. Uh, Even in Africa, we're not doing it. You see, and if we were to invest in food alone, we will be assured of benefiting from our development. Foreign entities, there's nothing wrong with it. It's a free market. We're not competing. People, other people are the ones benefiting from our food industry or the food industry generally. We are blessed to have, you know, conducive environment for production of food. We're not taking advantage enough. We're not. You come to Ghana, and for instance, this is one area I am interested in. And go into, let's say, cocoa production.
Right. Mm-hmm.
See, and most people with cocoa plantations, you have to put in the work and you know basically take care of it for years, 3, 4, 5 years. They have different varieties now, but you make a lot of money. You see, people make a lot of money in this area, and there's a lot of government support for this because we don't process it, we export it. But imagine to be processing. We
Right.
produce the cocoa, we process it to whatever form the world consumes it, and we'll be in good business
Right.
because
instead of cocoa leaving Ghana, coming to America, being processed and made into Hershey's, and then coming back and being sold in Ghana as Hershey's, we need to produce and process our own cocoa in Ghana.
to add value, and the same goes for the oil industry. We have a percentage of the sector, and we have a refinery sitting there in Tema, and excuse, we're not getting much from it.
Mm-hmm.
We're not. So start thinking, gaining control of food industry. And as for me, I talk the money. Once you have the money, the funds, sector, you control it. So we focus on money or revenue mobilization
Mm-hmm.
as a strategy itself. It's not a side issue. It's not a side issue. It should be the central issue because that is stumbling blocks in our strive to economic control or independence. So, I have been advocating this and I'll keep advocating it. We in the Black community put together $1 a month in a year,
Mm-hmm.
very influential. In just 1 year, I guarantee you, we will be so influential in a sector that we choose to go into, and we invest wisely. You know, the other day I did the math. In Ghana, alone, not less than $10 million in a month.
Mm-hmm.
Just by putting $1 together, we are about 27 million in Ghana. So I took a conservative figure of 10 million. We could be raising minimum $10 million in a month alone. You see, that's $120 million in a year. That's just Ghana alone.
Mm-hmm.
You see, and with this money, then we can begin to talk of competition. You can compete because one of the excuses or the reasons why we are shut out of competition is that the big companies bully us. I'll give you an example. You have a little shop or where you sell groceries, and we have that in your neighborhood, and the supermarket is built next to it. Basically, you're out of business. You see?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so we need. I've heard people different approaches, people talking about let's do it in bits. I think we need a huge one that begins to make money and push it back into the community, and then we can have the smaller ones.
Okay. Any questions in the chat room? We're gonna I know sometimes me and Brother Awini, we do marathon videos, but we gotta end it short a little bit tonight, and we'll get you on again later on in the week. It's getting late out here. I know it's late where you're at, but I have to wake up early in the morning. But before we close out, any questions in the chat room for Brother Baba? Any questions? Okay, here we go. I'm in the U.S. Boston, Massachusetts area working in accounting and finance. What are some of the prevalent barriers to entry to jump-starting industry on the continent? Did you get that? Like, what kind of hurdles? If I wanted to start an industry or business in Ghana, what kind of hurdles or challenges would I have to face?
Yeah, the registration is it's a bit lengthy, but it's not very lengthy. You'd have to basically get a Ghanaian involved in the business in order to facilitate the formation. You need to present a kind of what do you call it, constitution or organizational structure where you have your board of directors, and this is what they use to or give you the license to operate. But a bigger barrier that I foresee is, you see, the competition. You see, is when you're going to go into business in Ghana, you need to study the industry properly. You see, if you're going into, let me see an example. If you're a supplier of goods from diaspora, this is one area that I find very interesting because if you pick certain goods that are not produced anywhere near here, and you have a stationed, kind of facility that sells the goods or warehouses them and distributes them. The imminent barrier that I see is the charges that you would have to pay of entry at the harbor. This is one of the biggest barriers, but of course the new government says is addressing that barrier and going to take less time to clear the goods. But the cost of clearing your goods is another big issue, Donna. And all of these, when you put them together and you weigh them, I would say the biggest barrier in the system is just the cost of doing business.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the biggest in somebody.
Yeah. Panther guy, did Brother Baba answer your question? Let me know. But Brother Baba, in closing, we'll go ahead and close out. Anything else you want to share? Any other tenets or words of wisdom you want to share before we close out?
Yeah, I want to touch on what I was complaining about to you earlier, and
Okay.
we had a we had a discussion, and some people were not happy because I used fear, particularly the Ashanti, in explaining ethnic kind of problems that we have. So I don't want it to look like I hate the Ashanti or anything. This is not the case. And so I should say that was not the intention. So I apologize for that. But most importantly, we need an economic plan, and it's in our position, in our power to get it now. Uh, I certainly can afford $1 a month. So why can't we go on a campaign as people and let them see why they need to be contributing just $1 of their salary in a month, and to win their trust by showing them transparency measures that will be put in place to ensure that that money is used for its intended purpose. You can have a published account on a monthly basis. You can open up and show people what's going on in the account. You don't need to deprive people of information regarding money that they have contributed. We need to build trust in order to get something like this to work. But it's practical, it's doable. Just a year, even in the first month, the impact will be felt. But in a year, we will be in a very, very good position. Very, very good position.
Dark One has a question. This is the last question. Yeah, I want to start a brick manufacturing plant in Ghana, clay brick. I'm from Richmond, Virginia. How can I make good profit since Ghana want concrete block? I only want to make clay, not concrete blocks.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm glad you raised that because I'm also interested in the clay brick industry. I think that Ghana is rich with a lot of clay deposits. The clay movement, brick movement, if I should call it that, is is there, but it's kind of underground. Only a few people use it, but with the cost of building increasing so much, people are looking for alternative building materials. I think it's a very viable business approach, and I definitely wish that we can talk more in detail about this because I have a direct interest in this area too. I've been looking at a lot of sites with deposits of clay because I read on the issue, and I heard the concentration of iron, the color of the once it's crystallized. You see, so I think that the research. There's an assembly in Ghana. In Ghana, we have a decentralized system. There's a municipal assembly, uh, or kind of a district, if you call it that in American terms, that they try to invest into this, but somewhere along the line, I understand they abandoned it. But the promise is there. I think that what can happen this area is for somebody to do the research, come to Ghana, because we need to survey several clay, and availability of clay has to be a factor in the siting the clay plant, if you call it that. You need to do the survey. You need to see the quantity there and how you can produce, clay. But most important, you need to move out of and use clay to build or build an estate. This is one of my main targets, is to build an estate based on renewable, environmentally friendly material that is locally sourced. And basically, you can reduce the cost by about half, you see, and you can market this, and people will buy the houses because people need people, especially in the growing cities in Ghana, or even the big cities, people need housing. So if the investment should succeed, a lot of research and careful planning needs to go into it. But it, it would make more sense to continue, not just end with the manufacturing of bricks, but continue to actually build sustainable housing. This is a big problem in Ghana, the housing deficit with 20 or 10 to 20 years to bridge. You see, so it's a big area, and I hope if he gets in touch, uh, we can discuss more. This is one of my areas of interest.
Hey, Dark One. In fact, you know what, Winnie, I'm gonna put your contact information. I always put it in the description box. But Winnie, go ahead and tell people where they could reach you.
Yeah, just hit me up on Facebook. That's Awini Baba.
Okay.
It's Awini AW in the space Baba. Uh, if you hit me up, we'll take it from there. I think that I'm glad. I'm actually glad he brought up that. I've been looking at your trips to Dogon country, and I'm very interested in mainstream building material. They use a lot of stones in that area. They have some stone buildings. I'm interested in that. I'm interested in taking the local material and turning it around to use for building. Yeah, so I hope we can talk in detail on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll get you in contact with Dark One. So yeah, Alicia, you're late, but I'll have Brother Awini on again. Brother Awini, so give people do you mind giving people your email address as well?
Yeah, it's awinibaba at gmail.com.
Okay,
it's just, yeah, my Facebook ID, but with no space. Okay, and all small letters.
At gmail.com. All right, so I'll put that in the chat. So we're going to go ahead and close it out. Brother Baba, again, thank you for coming on. I wish we could go tonight, but I have to get up early in the morning. I was up early in the morning too. But we'll probably hop on either tomorrow or for sure we'll hop on again Thursday. We'll find a topic to discuss and we'll chop it up. But again, thank you so much for coming on. Guys, make sure search for Huru on Instagram. Make sure you're going to my Instagram page and liking the photos, and make sure you're following me. Make sure you go to all social media: Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter. Search for Huru. If you're new to the chat, new to the page, make sure you like and subscribe and share, and make sure you guys are sharing. So if you're not going to shoot super chat anything or like the video, you just don't feel like it, at least share the video. At least share it. Make sure you guys contact Brother Baba if you need anything. Make sure you check out his Facebook page. Guys, Dynasty Samir, Awini Baba, Dynasty Samir, the Kapitan. Till next time. people. You got something else you want to say real quick?
No,
No? Okay.
yeah, I just want to say, you know, it's good to be having these conversations, and I hope it continues, and some family bond can develop.
Absolutely. People, I appreciate it. Peace. Good night.
Right.